Hi, welcome back to Archie and Drew. I'm Archie, and this is Lydie and
Keith, yes, good to be here.
and this is another Living Faithful Slides video. Sorry, a bit rusty on the intro. I haven't done one in a while. So how are you both today?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's great to be out here at Nananga.
Yes, we're enjoying it. Lovely church. We've really enjoyed the people.
Okay, well, I can start on that. I was fairly young. I was about 12 years of age. I knew about Jesus because I was attending church and Sunday school. And but at that time, I started to realise that I needed to be able to just make it a personal decision in my life. So when I was 12, I made that commitment and started to grow from there. Many different experiences along the way. But that was a very special time in my life, and I realised then that Jesus was my Lord.
And I was brought up in a Christian family, and so I went to Sunday school as well. And I was about 10 when I gave my heart to Jesus. I was in Girls' Brigade at the time. That's a girls' Christian organisation, and we had a minister come to our church who ran what they call a crusade back in those days, where they had meetings and they had an appeal for people to give their hearts to Jesus. And so at one of those I did that, and I was probably about 10. So after that I started to read my Bible a lot more, and my Sunday school teachers encouraged me in my Christian faith, and so did my parents. So I'm very thankful to have had a Christian upbringing. And I guess after I finished school, I became a teacher. I was a primary school teacher in my young days, and taught in Brisbane and in some country places. And then in 1974, I met Keith, and we got married, and we've been married now for over 50 years. So it's been a happy marriage, and we've done a lot of things together. So Keith might be able to fill you in on a few things.
So, well, yeah, after I left school, I joined the bank. And I spent 22 years in the bank and was a manager. And then I left the bank and became a pastor. And then I was a pastor in a church for 28 years. And then I stepped down, and I'm now doing the role that I do now, which is like an encourager role to pastors and churches. So, yeah.
Do you think you could explain to us what that is?
What it is, yeah, sure. So at present, I've got about 14 churches, and my main role is to encourage the pastor and the leaders and just become a support for them. Sometimes in churches, pastors' roles can be difficult and even a little bit lonely sometimes. And so this is really just to be able to try and get beside them and help them in that regard. And sometimes it involves being able to go to the church and be able to share with them. Other times I might just phone them up or whatever is necessary in that. And most of my churches are in the country, so I enjoy coming out to these places here. So yes,
I can't think of anywhere better to live in.
Yeah. No, that's right.
Yes.
Very much so.
We wouldn't like to go back to Brisbane. We like it in the country. We both live in Hervey Bay now.
Okay, yeah, that happened over a period of time. When I was younger, even as a teenager, I served in the church and helped out with the youth group. And then as I got a little bit older, I took on some other roles in the church and had an opportunity to even preach. I tell a funny story about my first time I preached. I was only 16, and the sermon only lasted 8 minutes. It was so quick. and but it was the start, and I'm thankful for those people who gave the opportunity for me to be able to serve. Okay, and then as I got older, I realised that it was something that I enjoyed doing in leading, and so I investigated and finally took the decision to be able to leave the bank and to become a pastor.
He's only been in one church.
Yeah.
For all
So
those.
we served in one church at Harvey Bay all that time.
How long was that?
28 years I was in that church. So, and that was a really good experience. When we went there, the church was a fairly small church and mainly older people, but there's some families starting to come in. And then over the years, we moved to a new property and the church grew quite a lot. And we had a lot of other families and children and young people came then. So it was good to see that transition and that change. And after 28 years, though, we handed it over to someone else. But there's good leaders still in that church.
I was going to ask you because you've seen many changes in that church, but
Sure. Well, the changes were not only in numbers, though. And so I think there's been changes in the fact that today, or back in when I started, people would stay with a particular church or denomination often because that was the one that they were used to. But I think now people are a lot more open to finding a church that they think fits what they like and where they feel comfortable. And often families would look for a church where there is a youth group or a Sunday school so their children can fit in and things like that. And I think that's one of the changes that's come. People don't just go to a church because of the denomination. They'll go to a church where they feel as though it's a place that God is honoured and their families looked after.
One of the things that we did, it was an activity called Sunday Night Live, where we put on a program that had a lot of humour in it and acting and dancing and things. And we asked our people to invite their friends from outside the church. And so they did. And we ran that program once a month for
About 7 years.
yeah. And so sometimes we used to have, 800 or 900 people come. And at Christmas time, we used to have a special Christmas expo, we called it, where we set up the church like in Bible times, and we had a market and things like that. And we had some people come who had camels. And so when it came time for the Christmas story and the wise men coming, these people would dress up in costumes like they were the wise men, and they would ride in on the camels, and people really just loved it, and the kids loved it. And it was like a visual demonstration of what happened in the Bible. So it was great fun, actually.
real camels.
Yes.
Yeah, real camels in the church.
Did you also have lots of sheep?
Yes.
Yeah, we did have animals. We had sheep and we had some of the other animals in. We had a donkey and that. So it was just, we tried to recreate the thing so that they could see the story of Christmas, not just be told about it. Yeah.
Oh, and we also used to have buses that would bring in the children from the schools during the daytime. And so that probably may have about 60 children in a group, and they'd bring them through and they'd see the marketplace in Jerusalem or Bethlehem, and then they would go into the church area and they'd have the story with the camels. And so we had all the schools in Harvey Bay were involved in that. We'd have buses that go out and bring them in and come back. So
Very good.
we probably had a few thousand children come through the program in that time.
Obviously, you get to see a lot of people and a large region.
Yes.
You cover. say for instance, you stay at a place for just a weekend. How do you establish a meaningful relationship with
Yeah.
people there
Well,
in a short?
in a short time, yes, and that's important because I think that the forming relationships is a key thing in the church. People don't just want to walk into church and then walk out again. It's people that make the difference. So it can be anything like attending a men's breakfast, or it might be even having a meal with some of the leaders, or watching the activities of the church and just getting to know people that way. So I try to involve myself in what's happening in the church and to be able to get to know them that way. So a weekend is only a short time, I know, because there's all the other activities during the week and that type of thing. But so when I go there, I try to be a part of everything that's happening as much as possible. And that helps me appreciate all the work that the local people are doing.
So I don't always go with him because sometimes he likes to get up very early and travel to a church or something, and I'm not an early riser.
I think I can sympathise.
Yeah. When Keith was the pastor, I mainly stayed home and looked after the children. We have three children, and they were aged about 12, 9 and 6 when we first went to Harvey Bay Church. So they grew up and got married and in the time that we were there. So my job was looking after them and taking them to school and making sure they did their piano practice and things like that. And then later on, I was able to become more involved in the church with some of the women's work. Yes.
Oh, I was just about to say, we appreciate the opportunity of sharing with you in this forum because we love to be able to get to know people in all the different things of life. And obviously in the forum that you've got now in the podcast, you're reaching people in another way. And we would, through that, just be able to say to those who are listening, to encourage you if you're a follower of Jesus, to be able to keep doing that. If you're not a follower of Jesus, to be able to investigate what it does mean, whether you connect with a Christian or a church or just even read the Bible. We have found that following Jesus has really what has put purpose into our life. And we're glad to be able to serve him.
And I think if you've got children, you could read Bible stories to the kids when they're going to bed at night, if they're young children, and just encourage them to know the Bible, because if you get it into your heart when you're young, it will stay with you for a long time and be of use to you when you meet some of the problems of life later on.
I'm glad you're enjoying this. We really want our guests to be comfortable and have a good time, and quite often, sometimes many of the people we've interviewed, we've often got to know them a lot better.
Yes.
Well, we would look forward to coming back again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we have had the idea of doing follow-up interviews.
Okay.
Right, okay.
So now anyone who has already been interviewed once, you're not safe from another interview.
Okay.
In our world, there are many troubles that can take our eyes off the ball, like fuel prices,
Sure.
for instance. So how do you personally stay focused on him and his plans for your life?
I think first of all, just remembering that nothing is a surprise to God. He understands not only the things that are happening now, but the things that will happen. And so when something catches us by surprise or causes inconvenience or upset in our life, we need to realize, well, God understands this and he still has it in control. And I think to be able to focus on him as the source of our reliance and hope, rather than just what the news tells us. The Bible actually speaks about our faith being like the anchor of our soul. It's like when a boat has an anchor, it doesn't drift. And when we have that faith in Jesus, it's like an anchor to our soul, which means our soul doesn't have to drift around with all the other things that are happening in the world. We can have a hope that is firm in Jesus.
Yes, and what I think too, when you know the scriptures, nothing really surprises you because God has said in advance what is going to happen in end times. And in Matthew 24, it talks about earthquakes and wars and plagues and pestilence. And we've had the COVID plague a few years ago. And I think some people who weren't prepared for that really found that a very difficult time to go through. And yet, when you're a Christian, you know that God has promised that He's going to take us out of the world at just the right time. We may have to go through some trials, but He's promised that He will look after us and take us out when it's the right time.
So I don't doubt that we'll, by God's grace, we get through this. Your
Yes,
process.
yes, I think so.
As the years have gone by, how has your relationship with the Lord changed? Because our relationship with Him isn't static; it's always developing.
It changes regularly, all the time. I think at the start I said I became a Christian when I was 12. I think, looking back, I was only able to commit to God the life of a 12-year-old as I knew it. Then later on, I started work, I got married, I had a family, all these other things. And then there's a sense that as you grow and as you get older, you keep just committing to God the new things that come into your life, realizing that He's still the Lord over all of those things. And so therefore, as you grow and as you get older, even if new experiences come along, you still learn to trust God in those. I think in relation to that is that there's has to be just a little bit of being careful not to succumb to the temptation that think as you get older you know everything, because in many ways as you get older you become aware that you don't have everything packaged up really easily, and that you're still learning all the time. So I think as you grow, you keep an open mind to learning the new things that come across your way, even from God.
Yes, I think my life has changed over the years too. I've had to, when we got married, I sort of just had Keith to pray about and commit to God. But then when you have your children, you pray about them and ask that God will look after them and that they will learn to trust Him as they grow older too. And so I believe God has been faithful to us as a family because all of our children are following Jesus at this time. And we have a grandson who's nearly 18 and he's following God and he's been baptized, and so we're really pleased with him. And our other grandchildren are a bit younger, and we're praying that they will come to know God as they grow also.
We really appreciate you coming on the Living Faith of Life series. Before we go, is there one final piece of advice or song or scripture that you'd like to share with viewers to encourage sharing?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would just put is that I believe Jesus is the hope of the world. And whatever the circumstances, if you're listening to this, whatever the circumstances you find yourself in, I believe Jesus has the capacity to take you through that. And amidst all of the other things that clamour for our attention today in the world, I think if we can fix our hope and our minds and our heart on Jesus, then we have a sure way to go forward with confidence.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I think we need to be constantly recognising that God is with us every day, just as we're going about our day. And when things go wrong, we can pray about it and ask God to give us wisdom or to help us through a difficult situation. I had an answer to prayer. Just lately, I had lost some tablets that I was supposed to take, and I looked everywhere for them and couldn't find them. And I said, Lord, it would be really good if I could find them, because I don't think the chemist will give me any more, because I've only just had this prescription filled and he won't want to give me any more. And so I sort of looked, and eventually I just thought, well, I'll look back in one of those places where I've already looked. And there they were. So they must have been there all the time, but I couldn't see them. But after I prayed, I could see them. And so just little things like that as you go through your day, just ask God to help you with just the little things. And then he'll also help you with the big things as well.
I feel very familiar with that sort of scenario, looking for something.
Yes.
And God opens your eyes to where it is.
Yes, that's right.
Well, thank you for being on the channel and letting us borrow some of your time. And we thank you for watching this video. Godspeed with you and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Nice cannon shot. Would one of you like to fire the cannon?
Oh, you can fire.
When are you going to go?
You just want to start here. It has been a blast.
Very good.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.